Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Morning Trading. I'm delighted to see you again for your favorite show. A trader speaks to traders. My name's Benoist Rousseau. I've been trading for 30 years, and I'm a member of the two largest Chicago exchanges, the CM and the CBOT. And we're going to review the latest news in the financial markets and look at interesting levels to trade. So, the news is very simple. After a Black Thursday on the stock market, where all the American indices linked to technology, namely the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, collapsed, we saw a very clear, very strong rebound on Friday. For example, we had stocks like Nvidia and Broadcom, which each gained more than 7%, which is quite exceptional and really drove the indices up. But it's a rebound that only managed to recover about half of the drop. Of the week, since over the week, the S&P 500 fell by 0.1%. On the other hand, the Nasdaq lost more than 1.84%, so it was, of course, the most shaken. So on one hand, we have gains in the sector. Microprocessors, GPUs, and artificial intelligence, since they say everything related to semiconductors and companies like Nvidia and Broadcom, because it said that the tens or even hundreds of billions that will be invested in AI, these are the first to benefit from it. On the other hand, we have Amazon, which dropped by more than 5%, 5.6% to be precise. Why? Because investors were a bit unsettled by the more than 50% increase in capital expenditures this year by Amazon. They don't really see where these expenses are going. Maybe I can answer that, at least in my opinion. It also seems linked to AI. Because even if Amazon is, in quotes, just a global marketplace where you can buy gadgets, we're completely immersed in AI with Amazon. Every week they send me emails with all sorts of things that suddenly I want to buy. They're extremely effective. They've targeted me perfectly, and they send me geeky products, for example, totally useless, but therefore completely indispensable. And I sometimes give in and buy the latest red mouse with a triple scroll wheel built in. I still don't know what it's for, but I want to have it anyway. In short, Amazon is also making huge investments in AI to perfectly target us and tempt us, because let me remind you, the foundation of the economic system is that supply creates demand. Otherwise, if supply didn't create demand, I think we'd still be more or less in the prehistoric age. But there you have it, they're constantly tempting us. So it's a market that, in the area of tech stocks, really took a big hit. And on the other hand, with you, like this, you're talking. Monday, there was probably a sector rotation in favor of the Dow Jones on Friday. Clear proof, an all-time record high on the Dow Jones, it shot straight up by more than 50,000 points. We're at totally crazy levels. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, we're at 1,264 points. Let me remind you that an American author in the 1980s wrote about the Dow Jones reaching 12,000 points and everyone made fun of him. It was absolutely impossible and thinkable. And yet, it's at 50,000 points. And of course I am. I'm convinced that all the hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people who made fun of him, of course, never apologized. That's the principle of the masses, stupidity. First of all, let's move on to the technical analysis of the different indices. And here we go. Let's get started. So quickly, the Nasdaq, we had a nice rebound. It hit the lowest point of the year on Thursday. Rebound, we're above 25,000 points now, so, well, we might come back down to 25,000 points. But this time it might hold on much more than last time, even though it already hovered for several, more than 10 hours around 25,000. Now, there's a possibility, since it's benefiting from Friday's momentum, that we get a rebound at 25,000 and that this rebound could be quite interesting. But take a good look. Overnight, it went up but got blocked by Sammy from the SSM monthly ping pong on the monthly support levels. But let's not forget one thing. It's only been going down for the past 2 weeks. And if we draw a downward trend line, we're right at the top of that trend line. Caution is advised on the Nasdaq, however, as long as it stays above 25,000 points, which is above last week's low. It's not that bad, really. It's not that bad. We really dodged a bullet. On Thursday, we saw exactly the same momentum on the S&P 500. So it managed to get past this monthly pivot. It's right between its monthly pivot and the monthly middle era at 7,000. So right now it's hovering at 69.50. Basically, they're holding their breath. We pause and say, and now what am I going to do? The big question for the S&P 500. Let's take a look at the overall winner of the week and of this absolutely crazy Friday. The Dow Jones. So we're experiencing my X story, and I'm very happy to be sharing it with you, because this is a positive historic moment for Dow Jones above 50,000 points, an all-time absolute record. And it's not just at 50,012 points, it's already at 50,278 points. So there you go. The whole night was also profitable for it. And now we're really talking about tens, hundreds, thousands of billions flowing into the so-called more traditional sector. Let's have our little depression of the day. Bitcoin, which was in very hot water, I kept telling you about it. And I told you that if we broke through the monthly support, it wouldn't be a good sign. I didn't think we would drop so quickly. I thought it would stabilize around 65,000. And it got hit by a wave of panic on Thursday evening. The surges, the 60,000, and now we've bounced back. Back up to 70,000, right on the monthly support. It's actually been since precisely January 16th that Bitcoin has been continuously dropping, so we've had almost 3 weeks of non-stop decline. It went from 200,000, almost 98,000 to 60,000, so divided by 40%. A small rebound, it stabilized around 70,000, but it's extremely fragile. Be very careful with Bitcoin, with gold. Now we might be seeing the start of a range for gold after a low point around 4,500. It's struggling to break through 5,100. It's above 5,000. The monthly pivot point is around 4,936. So maybe, after a very sharp downward wave in gold, we're now heading towards a bit more stability, and perhaps the formation of a range. We'll see how that goes. In any case, those who had cash, who got money back by selling Nasdaq stocks all last week, they didn't put it into gold. On the contrary, they even pulled their money out of gold as well, to put everything into the Dow Jones, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, pharmaceuticals, and banks. Roughly speaking, there is, still, that's what matters in life. The rest is just useless bonus. At 440 in DAX, here we go. The DAX rebound is very interesting for it because it's stabilizing on its monthly pivot point. So over 2 months, well, it's in the middle of the range, but it's actually good to see it stabilizing. Now, the problem for it is the 25,000 mark. 100 points below that is going to be hard to get through. But if it stabilizes for a few dozen hours on the monthly pivot point, that will be a good sign for it to regain a bit of momentum. The CAC 40 looks very good. It's at its highest point in the last 15 days, after having ranged for a week doing nothing. Now it's climbing steadily. We can see that it's struggling to get past the middle 3-week mark and the 8,003 level. But it's at its peak, really. It's our mini Dow Jones, which is still far from breaking all-time records for now on the CAC 40, but it's kind of a mini European Dow Jones. It has recovered well. Everything is positive. Everything is in the green, so that's a pretty good sign. All right, I won't take up any more of your time. It's the start of the week. We don't have the important statistics yet. The market is still finding its direction. The European market is going to move for about an hour and a half at most. And then they'll wait to see what their big brothers in the United States do 5 hours later when they open. So there you have it. I'll see you tomorrow for the Good Morning Trading. And I'll see you in just a moment for those from my school for a trade analysis. With that, sending you my best. Ciao, everyone.